Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Keyforge, the brand new collectible card game that's coming out in Q4 2018, which is created by Fantasy Flight Games and designed by Richard Garfield, the same guy who designed Magic the Gathering in 1993, one of the best game designers in the history of games. Magic the Gathering has had a success as a tabletop game that is really unmatched. Virtually nothing in history has seen the success rates that it created an entire new genre. You just can't count out Magic the Gathering. Keyforge is a direct competitor to Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering reshaped all of tabletop gaming for decades, and Keyforge, in my opinion, well, this is a fact. Keyforge is going to be a ripple or a tsunami on CCG and on tabletop gaming. I'm predicting now it is going to be a tsunami, okay? But today, I'm going to specifically talk about the top 5 reasons Keyforge could fail, okay? Now, I'm going to do everything I can to buy as many pre-orders on this thing as I can possibly get, because I think every single deck that is out there is going to do nothing but go up, right? That is my prediction, right? And so here's the top 5 reasons Keyforge could fail. Okay, there are distinct reasons it could. And I've already done a video giving 10 reasons why I think it's going to succeed. Again, I think it's far more likely that this is going to succeed than fail, but there are some very distinct reasons why Keyforge could fail. Let's talk about them. Number 1 reason why Keyforge could fail is ability to meet demand. I think the demand for this, especially initially, is going to be absolutely immense, okay? And here's my prediction. I think virtually every single Magic the Gathering player is going to play this game, and the reason why is the price point. It costs $10. That is nothing. Virtually, that's the cost of a pizza that a Friday Night Magic player or that a PTQ player would order while they're at one event. It's trivial. $10 is trivial to Magic the Gathering players, which means you're going to get virtually every single Magic the Gathering player. I predict you could get as much as 40% of the people who have stopped playing Magic the Gathering. So I think that Keyforge is going to get 140% of Magic the Gathering players, being 40% coming from people who have already stopped, right? Its growth rate could be enormous, right? However, it's owned by Fantasy Flight Games, and guess what? Fantasy Flight Games has already proven that they have massive problems, very much difficulty meeting demand. This happened with their Star Wars dice game. This has happened in the past with their X-Wing game. They get a really hot title, everybody wants it, they cannot meet the demand. Now, one of the reasons for this is almost all games today are created in China, and you got to queue up, right? And if you need really, really fast production, you need tons of their factories and tons of their throughput, and that is hard to get today because everybody's making their games there. Kickstarter people, regular, board game companies, regular tabletop role-playing game companies, regular dice game companies, regular card game companies. There's just a ton of competition, literally for the output. And so, and the reality is there's very little that FFG can do to get past that, right? There's only so many factories over there. And get this, so I'm a little bit of an economics wonk, right? China is now become so successful as successful factory, suppliers of factory output, that they are really growing a very large middle class and getting to the point where even China is starting to outsource their own work, right? Which is pretty incredible, right? And so the reality is this is a very, very real problem. And what could happen is Keyforge could come out, everybody's ready for it, it blows up, they sell out through, and I'm predicting now, I don't think they're even going to fulfill 10% of the demand with the initial run, okay? And then go sell out incredibly quickly, especially if it comes out before Christmas, right? And so if that happens, this could be a very, very serious problem for Keyforge, because if you get the game out there, everybody loves it, nobody can buy it, everybody's got a sour taste in their mouth because a few of their friends are playing it and they're just sitting on the sidelines and they can't do anything. that can put a really bad taste in people's mouths, and that could be a serious, serious problem. And by the time they get that flow up and they're able to meet demand again, people could have moved on and there could have been other things, right? So you want to strike while the iron is hot, right? Well, unfortunately, I think FFG has shown in the past that often they get the iron hot and they're not ready to strike, and so that's a really very serious problem. I don't think they're not being lazy. I don't think they're poor planning. This is just a very real constraint, like especially Kickstarter, and there's so many gaming companies now, and like 60,000 people show up for Gen Con nowadays. Like gaming is big, and there are so many games being built right now, and that really limits the ability for them to have their game on and available and ready, right? So this is the number one reason why Keyforge could fail. Second reason why Keyforge fail is the setting. The setting, I think, was a huge mistake not to go with a fantasy setting. I think in order to make these decks programmatically acceptable, they wanted to mix future and they wanted to mix sci-fi and fantasy. But the reality is the vast majority of people really don't dig sci-fi. Sci-fi is a niche. It really isn't dug in the way that Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter is dug. And if you think I'm wrong, well, the reality is, what's really that popular, right? Well, I know what everybody's saying. Star Wars. Well, guess what? That's a space opera. It's really not sci-fi at all. There's more fantasy in Star Wars than sci-fi, if you ask me, right? So the popularity of Star Wars actually belongs to sci-fi. I mean, laser swords are the coolest thing in that, right? And the reality is, and then Star Trek. Where's Star Trek now, man? Who knows? Like, it's really, I think it's floundering a bit. Sci-fi is just not that hot. I think it was a critical mistake on the part of FFG and Richard Garfield to mix the setting as sci-fi and fantasy. I think they could have done much better if they had kept this simple and went straight fantasy. Number 3 reason why I could fail is humor. Richard Garfield has said he specifically attempted to inject humor into the game, right? Here's the problem. Whenever you try to make something funny, it usually isn't funny, right? And this is Richard Garfield. What's he know about humor? And even FFG, what do they know about humor, right? And even if you get the best humorists in the world, comedians, and attach them to game, humor is incredibly subjective, right? And the reality is, I think these, the jokes they put in there, I think 10, 20, maybe a third of the people are going to go, ah, that was really funny. I'm so glad that's there, right? But one of those jokes, what's that joke going to mean when you're playing that deck for the 50th time, right? It means nothing, right? So I think it was a serious problem to mix humor into the game. And one thing I love about humor is I think your funniest things in most games are humor it was completely unintended, that just showed up. And so I think, especially in games, it's a bad idea to try to build humor in. Very few great games really include humor, right? And I think it was a mistake. Product. Okay, number 4 reason why Keyforge could fail. Product peculiarity. This is a weird product, right? It's actually not a CCG at all. It's not a collectible card game. It's a collectible deck game. Every single card is unique. Every single deck is unique. That's weird, right? That is very hard to explain. And get this, Magic the Gathering, in my opinion, used to be by far the most complex, widely played tabletop game there is. Like, you got 35,000 cards, right? You have multiple formats. It is incredibly difficult to get into it, right? This is a step up complexity from that, even understanding what the product is. I think the product is very peculiar, and that could hurt them, okay? Last, number 5 reason why Keyforge could fail is programmatic design. So they are using high code, high math to get these cards built so that each one is unique, so that each card is unique, and by the way, I do know that you can have 2 cards in the same deck that are exactly the same, but I really feel like at the macro level, every card is unique, right? Also, every deck is unique, right? All of that is coming from the programmatic design. So there's going to be some percentage of cards that make no human sense. The way they're doing this, nobody can actually read all the cards and edit them. It just can't be done, right? So they've written a lot of code and algorithms to make sure that the programmatic design on Keyforge makes these sound right to us, but some of them are just going to sound stupid, right? And some of them, how are players going to respond to, a game element that really is just nonsensical, right? That has a nonsensical name. It could be really distracting, right? The programmatic design here is an inherent risk in the game. It's what could make it massively successful, and it's also what could make it a huge failure. If this feels like you're reading, gobbledygook from a random text generator, if even 10% of the cards are like that, it could ruin the game, right? So now I will say this: mad props, and literally me clapping for Richard Garfield and FFG. I am super hyped for this game, right? And I think I love when people make risks. And I will say it too, I love when people fail, right? Some of the best things in my life, some of the most rich experiences in my life have come from my failures. And I love that FFG and Richard Garfield are making big swings, right? And so, but I did want to, I just wanted to share with you what I thought were the top 5 reasons why Keyforge could fail. Those 5 reasons are, again, ability to meet demand, the setting itself, going sci-fi rather than straight fantasy. I know it's a sci-fi fantasy mix. Injecting humor into the game, the product peculiarity, and the programmatic design. I think those are really problematic. And I think there are 5 reasons why the game could fail. And I just wanted to share them with you, and I really appreciate you listening to this and taking the time to just kind of think about Keyforge with me. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful day.